So this is what you do the first time we're back together as a family, Vampire Book Club.
Warning, this podcast, Vampire Book Club, will contain spoilers from the Vampire Diaries, the originals, and legacies. Hey, my name is Mikaela. Welcome to my podcast, Vampire Book Club. It is a Vampire Diaries Universe podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the 10 strongest vampires in the Vampire Diaries universe. I probably won't be including characters that started out in legacies. I will be including characters that appear in legacies but start out either in the originals or the Vampire Diaries. Don't forget to check out my links in the description. I'm going to start out with honorable mentions that I didn't include in the list, but they were definitely strong vampires. Starting with Shen Min, who is a pretty ruthless fighter before he is even turned. He almost kills Haley and Marcel. However, Elijah gets there just in the nick of time. But to be fair, Marcel is just a regular vampire at that point. But even Rebekah is afraid for their lives. I'm going to also mention Aurora, Tristan, and the Strix all in the same line. I think they're all equally pretty strong. They are some of the oldest vampires and some of the first sired. I think another really strong vampire is going to be Sage. She fought men for a living before she was a vampire. She also is very old. She is one of the first sired as well. She is Finn's first sired. And again, she literally fought men for sport. Here we go. For number 10, I am going to say a hybrid, a basic hybrid like Haley or Tyler. In a couple of my reasonings are, one, there is a scene in the Vampire Diaries where Tyler Lockwood is a hybrid and he says to Nadia, who is like a 500-year-old vampire, young hybrid beats old vampire every time. First off, wolves can kill vampires alone with that. They are strong on their own, especially when they are under a full moon. So with the added vampire strength, that actually makes sense to me. You see it happen quite a lot. Haley grows up. I think she's actually stronger than Tyler, but I was just using Tyler's scene to kind of explain where I'm coming from in my decision. When she is turned, she starts out as a wolf. When she is turned into a hybrid, she has spent most of her life protecting herself and fighting against dangers basically alone. So she was pretty strong. And there are some scenes where she fights Klaus and Rebekah and Aurora, and she takes on Aya and kills Aya. She, who is one of the Strix, one of like a 900-year-old vampire, she's very, very strong. She holds a good fight against Klaus when she finally becomes uncursed in the compound, and she's fighting him, and he ends up not fighting her back eventually, but at first he is fighting her and really putting in effort, it looks like. I truly think that if she wasn't forced to turn into just a vampire and wasn't scared for her daughter's life, she never would have died. And maybe you can say this isn't fair that I'm including their hybrid strength. However, Klaus would not be stronger than Elijah if he did not have his hybrid side. It just is who they are. They are a vampire and they are stronger because of that, period. Now, number 9 on my list is definitely going to be Finn Mikaelson. I think out of all the basic original vampires, he is probably the weakest. I actually have a theory about this. My theory is basically that when they are daggered, their mind is still aware of what is happening and can grow. However, their body and physical strength does not age like an older vampire. As we know, Finn is daggered the longest. He is daggered consecutively the longest for 900 years. And even if this is not true, you also can't gain strength in a box. You don't have experience that you're gaining like his siblings do. He is also very easily taken out by a human, Matt Donovan. Also, Kol, as a vampire, fights him and takes him out. Finn is definitely strong. He is original strength. Originals are by the spell or by age. They are just strong. I really want to think that it has to do with the fact that they actually can't die other than with the white oak. And in the number 8 spot, I'm going to go with Kol Mikaelson, another original vampire. As an original, he is daggered probably the second most next to Finn, I would assume. We know he is stronger than Finn because he fights Finn and wins. However, he is kind of unique because he's one of the only originals that really cares about magic and took time to create dark objects, which is a way for him to use magic as a vampire. He has witches create them for him. He studies other forms of magic. He really is a thrill seeker by nature, and magic was how he did that as a human. As a vampire, he could no longer experience magic, so he really got his thrills by really embracing his vampire side. Sometimes that would lead to them getting caught, so he would get daggered quite frequently. And a lot of times, Klaus needed Elijah's assistance to dagger him. Not always, but most of the time it appeared that way. So besides his magic aspect, I really think that I like his games, the way he plays out of the box, how he is very strategic. A lot of the Mikaelsons are strategic. I think they got this from Esther. But he is strategic plus reckless and cares very little about consequence. Until he meets a Davina, of course. I like that he likes to use weapons like baseball bats and whatnot. To see him beat Damon with a baseball bat was really cool. The way that he does mind games. He also tells Rebekah that she's worse than Klaus. And that's why I didn't put... It's not the only reason I didn't put Kol after Rebekah, because I do think that Rebekah is stronger personally. But I think that he has a lot of different dynamics to him that the other siblings don't. However, that still doesn't add up to their strength. Number 7 is Rebekah Mikaelson. And yes, this was a hard choice for me because sometimes I do think that she shows strength more than Elijah does. I love how Rebekah is a girl boss. I love how when she is fighting people, a lot of times she uses her high heels to get them in the neck. It's a great weapon to have on hand and a great fashion accessory. I really appreciate it. We see her take on all kinds of vampires by herself all the time. She also takes on witches and any creature really that comes at her or that she needs to take on for any reason. And like her other 2 brothers that I already mentioned, they are all immune to werewolf bites, the sun, burning, and regular wood stakes, which naturally makes them stronger, or at least more resilient than the other vampires. Even when their heart or head is removed, they still do not die. So Klaus doubts Rebekah's instincts pretty frequently, especially when it's her choice of men. So when Klaus is trying to figure out what Stefan is up to, he's like, my sister has flawless instincts, almost borderline supernatural. And although he never trusts her, like I said, with men, I do agree with that. I think that she has flawless instincts. I think she's right about a lot of things that they doubt her with. Like, for instance, she was the only one that knew that the harvest ritual didn't fail, but that the magic had to have gone somewhere else and that she was going to make alliances with them. Unfortunately for her, they were enemies of her, a few of them. But I think that her instincts help her with her strength because she knows when to hold them and when to fold them, type of thing. Also, she originally says that they're not going to be able to hold Klaus down in the head garden, and then when she tries to fight him, she should have trusted her instincts originally, because when he starts to fight back, she's like, yeah, we can't do this. I'm going to trust my instincts. Marcel, pick up the coin so you don't die. Because I can't die, but everybody else here can. We also see Rebekah take on Aya. And when Rebekah is cursed, she takes on Haley and Klaus and Elijah. She starts with Haley first. Haley fights back a little bit. They fall off of the porch and she's about to kill Haley. And Elijah tries to stop her and she takes out Elijah very quickly. And if it weren't for Klaus coming in at the last minute and throwing her on a table, she would have killed probably both Haley and Camille. And honestly, if she had had some white oak, she probably would have gotten Elijah too. Rebekah is also really a girl's girl. She really supports other women. She finds that there's strength and unity in supporting women for those who stick together, and that they should. That's pretty strong and empowering all alone. And in the Vampire Diaries, she's a little bit more fun, I feel. She is a little bit more willing to torture, and really, she's a mean girl at first. I think she just really wants to be loved. And I think being around Marcel again really helps her feel love again, because he's probably the only one that really shows her what love is and treats her fairly. And that being said, he is probably one of the only creatures, one of the very few creatures that can take her out. She is actually a weakness to him because he cares about her. And I think that she appears weaker because she actually cares about her brothers. Family can be power or it can be a weakness. And for Marcel, definitely Rebekah is a weakness. Not that she could hurt him, but he wouldn't hurt her. And he loves her so much that he doesn't hurt the rest of her family, sort of. At first he does because he's still filled with anger. However, he loves them too. Number 6, Elijah Mikaelson. Honestly, he is actually probably the scariest vampire of all. He is extremely unhinged and tries to appear so calm and honorable. And there was a part of me that was going to put him above Klaus due to his unhingedness, but I really think that Klaus's werewolf side and willingness to put down family was a big reason why I didn't. However, I think that initially when Klaus and Elijah were turned, Elijah was stronger. Well, because Esther had a spell that kept Klaus weak, and Elijah was older and had more experience fighting. And I think that when Klaus's hybrid side is activated, obviously Elijah is not a match for him, but Elijah is one of the only vampires that can really stand strong and really put up a good fight with Klaus and Mikael. He is the leader of the Strix. He is obviously one of the oldest vampires as an original. And when Elijah has no memories, he is able to prevent Klaus from saving the love of his life. However, he obviously does not remember it, and he sees family as his strength, and Klaus and Haley are not his family in this version of himself. So the fact that Haley died due to Elijah not being on their side and against them really shows me how he is very close to, if not stronger than Klaus. They just both cannot die physically, and they both did not have a weapon, or at least Klaus wouldn't use it on Elijah in that moment because it's his brother. Elijah doesn't remember Klaus being his brother. We see Elijah take on like a whole pack of werewolves by himself. He's just really awesome and strong. And I think that his damage and his red door really play into his strength. Because he's so unpredictable, you really don't know if he's going to rip your head off or not. He just randomly pulls Marcel's heart off on the bridge. So heart-wrenching. Starts carving up girls after saying he would never harm children. He tries to be honorable, and I respect that, but he just isn't. He needs to accept every part of him, and he never does. And truly, that's why I like him with amnesia, because you see how strong he is without the guilt and the shame that holds him back. And the responsibility and all of the things that he has done for 1,000 years are just wiped away, and he is able to be free and to be his true, powerful self. Number 5, Mikael Mikaelson. Before we see Mikael being turned, he is a savage. He is a Viking. He fights all the time. He does not feel pain. He does not even register feeling pain. He is the reason they all say Mercy is weak. He has beat them all as small children, especially Klaus. He honors strength. He is strong. His mental strength is also very strong. He trains himself to feed only off of vampires because he feeds on the predator and not the prey. He thinks his children, especially Klaus, are abominations. He has always thought that Klaus was a monster and was horrible to him. He really is a horrible person deep down. He wants to kill a child just because he was fathered by another man and not strong. He always viewed Klaus as a weakness because he didn't have strength. I think that also the loss of Freya changed him. He can take on groups of people and not even feel anything. I would say he's pretty close to Klaus's strength. However, I would just say that I think that Klaus ultimately has ended Mikael more than Mikael has ended Klaus. Number 4, Klaus Mikaelson. Honestly, I think that when Klaus is not the full hybrid, I think that both Mikael and Elijah may be stronger than him. However, he is the original hybrid. He can't be killed. Not only is he insanely strategic, like his siblings and Catherine Pierce even, he is insanely strong and he shows no mercy. He does not mind taking his siblings out or putting them down if he needs to, if he feels that they are going to get in his way. He is extremely paranoid and extremely aware of enemies and the ways that he can take them down. When the rest of the world thinks that hope is dead and Marcel is sitting there wondering like why he is not fighting back because this is not him. Because if there is anything that Klaus is really great at, it is grieving and murdering at the same time. So, like his siblings, he is an original and he can't die by the basic ways that other vampires can die. And even other hybrids can die. However, like the werewolves, because he is part werewolf, his bite can kill vampires. Not his siblings or other hybrids. And I think that without Elijah, he definitely wouldn't be as strong as he is. Again, we see him without Elijah in the 5th season of the originals when he has amnesia. And he really needs his brother to be who he is. He really has no limits. He has no morals other than with his own child and his own family. And even that is like, there's a real thin line somewhere, not even sure where to draw it. I really thought he was going to kill Rebekah, and Rebekah also thought that as well, apparently, when she has Mikael come for them and he finds that out. But he doesn't kill his siblings. I think he does love his family. I just think he's very tormented. He is very paranoid and just doesn't know how to trust anybody. And he has control issues because he was beaten when he tried to be himself as a child. So it's weird because he actually looks the most like Mikael. And he is the strongest out of his siblings, I would say. And he looks the most like Mikael and he acts the most like Mikael. And I think it's because of all the torture that both Mikael and Esther had put on him. Esther makes him feel shame constantly. Mikael puts him down and shames him constantly as well. And Esther just kind of lets it happen and hides his powerfulness because she doesn't want her own secrets to come out, because she is just protecting herself and her secret and not protecting her children. Number 3, Alaric Saltzman, upgraded Alaric Saltzman, to be clear. We first see Alaric as a vampire hunter who is after Damon, who has a ring that brings him back to life, and he fights Damon. Damon takes him out, and he is dead. So we see him fight other vampires as well. So he does have some strength on his side when he is turned. He is literally, every time that he goes back and dies with his ring on as a human, he goes to the other side, where Esther then can manipulate him and help his mind to become the monster that she wants him to be. When Esther is finally free, she is able to create a dagger that is indestructible with the ring that brings him back to life and ties his life to a human life. So he is made stronger, but he does not last longer. He's faster, stronger. He takes on Rebekah and Klaus separately. He also stabs Esther, one of the most powerful witches. He catches her off guard, and he is not like his vampire self yet. He did not turn. He did not complete the transition, I should say. He also kills Klaus. However, Bonnie has a magic spell on Klaus, and Klaus jumps into another body, and his body somehow ends up living. So Rebekah is able to get away, and Rebekah actually ends up killing Elena because Elena was the human that Alaric's life was tied to, and that was how they destroyed him. So number 2 for me is going to be 2 different people. It is going to be Lucien and Marcel, because they both take the same serum and both have the same abilities. The goal of taking the serum for both of them is to take down the originals. And while Lucien is physically stronger, in Marcel's case, knowledge is power. while Lucian does know the Mikaelsons, nobody knows the Mikaelsons like Marcel does. He was raised by them and grown up to be them in their image, and he is probably the only person in the entire universe that could take down a Mikaelson if he really wanted to. This is why I am putting them at equal strength, because while I said that Lucian is physically stronger, Marcel knows more about them and knows all of their weak spots and is able to take them down. He is like steps ahead of them. He takes the serum before anybody knows. I actually thought that Elijah really killed him. It was so heartbreaking when I saw that scene. However, we see this serum being taken, and at first he gives it to Aurora. Vincent is able to extract it from Aurora and put it into Marcel. We see that these bites from this type of upgraded original kills Finn, because not only is it made by ancestor magic, it is also made with 7 different strands of werewolf venom from all of the packs that exist. So the vampire bite cannot be healed by Klaus, nor can it be healed by baby Hope, or the child Hope, who are both hybrids. One has 1 strand of werewolf, the other one has double werewolf, and that was not enough to counteract. Marcel easily takes out Kol and Elijah and throws Klaus around like it is no big deal. The only reason that he is stopped is because his one weakness is Rebekah. He keeps Klaus alive because he knows that Rebekah is anchored to Klaus, and because he genuinely cares about Klaus as well. I'm really not sure if Klaus would have been taken down. However, the writers do say that if he was bitten, that he would have been killed by Marcel or Lucian's bite as well. However, I'm sorry, but I'm still not convinced. Just because he is part werewolf, so he shouldn't be affected by it. It doesn't matter how many strands of werewolf. I understand why it can't heal others, but wolf should be equal to vampire and shouldn't be affected by other strands of wolf. Wolf protects wolves. Like, they all have a code where they protect each other and their own kind, period. Like I said, I really wish they played that out, but they did not. Lucian is way stronger than Marcel, but again, in this case, I think that he is more aware of his enemies and knows their weaknesses and is able to take them down. However, the Mikaelsons being a family unit really a lot of the time is the reason that they are able to defeat their enemies, because they have others who are willing to help them in their time of needs. They always back each other up, including Haley. If Lucian didn't underestimate the power of Freya or took her out, I think that he would have been able to beat them. They also used Davina. They had no problem using Davina. This is why the Mikaelsons are always on top, because they have no problem taking out people that they're supposed to care about to save themselves. So Freya using Davina's sacrifice is ultimately how they take out Lucian. The way that they take out Marcel, they don't. They can't. But eventually, because of his connection with them, he does come to his senses. And also a big part of that is that he has Klaus locked up down in the basement of the compound, and he knows that Klaus is the anchor to keeping his siblings alive, and he does not care about the rest of them, but he does care about Rebekah, and that again is a weakness. He still fully intends to kill them in the season 3 episode when Rebekah tries to ask him to stop or to give back Klaus. He still fully does not care. But eventually, as time goes on and he needs to keep Klaus alive, he realizes that he also does care about Klaus, and he wouldn't be who he is without the Mikaelsons. So the number one powerful, strongest vampire in the entire universe is definitely going to be Hope Mikaelson. Not only is she a firstborn Mikaelson witch, which are super strong, she is a witch and a werewolf. She has 2 parts of werewolf in her, so she is already from the beginning stronger than her father, because her father was a witch and 1 part werewolf. But unlike Daddy Klaus, she was born as a vampire, which in the history of vampires has never happened before. There has never been a vampire that was born from another vampire. And although we do see babies being magically put into another vampire in her womb working, she does not actually physically use her DNA to make these babies. Her reproductive gene does not happen. She just has a womb. She's using it as an oven, period. His actual DNA creates this baby, which it really is weird because this doesn't happen in 1,000 years until he breaks the hybrid curse. And although she is a very powerful firstborn witch, I do think that some of these vampires could give her a run for her money. if she was not the fully activated tribrid, meaning before she takes a human life, which activates her werewolf side, or dies herself, activating her vampire side. I'm pretty certain that when she is fully activated, she is probably one of the strongest creatures, if not the strongest creature in the entire universe. However, she is 100% the strongest vampire in the universe because she can still use her magic, and yes, heretics can do that as well, and witches are pretty strong and can take down vampires quite frequently. And I actually really did want to include the heretics, but I just think that with the werewolves being able to fight the other vampires, that hybrid was particularly more vulnerable to other vampires if we're talking about strongest vampires. But where she has the wolf bites and she has like vampire blood that regenerates itself, she can heal others, she can turn others. She turns her own mother because the placenta broke and their blood mixed. So when she dies right after childbirth, she is now a hybrid. She is the very first unsired hybrid. She has countless fights with just her magic. She also is a really strong-ass vampire and werewolf combination. She makes at least 2 hybrids in the womb, or at least coming out of the womb, one of them. The first one we see that Tyler Lockwood takes blood from Haley the baby's blood, and makes a hybrid, fearing that they will be sired to Klaus, but they're actually sired to Hope. She can make these beasts and then use her own blood to turn them into hybrids, where Klaus needed another person. She takes on all kinds of monsters stronger than these beasts, than vampires, all day long. She uses a team a lot of the time, but she's pretty damn strong, and that's why I had to put her first. She cannot die like the originals. She also cannot die from a white oak stake. She has her own special tree. It is a red oak stake. She may or may not have her own sire line in the same way that the originals do, where they are all connected to her, and if she dies, they'll die with her. That was never clarified for sure. Wonder what your thoughts are on that, but she's definitely just as bad as they come. She's all 3 of the species that we see most combined, and it's pretty badass. Tell me if you guys agree or disagree with what I had to say today. Let me know what you guys think. Who would you have picked?